Welcome, beautiful hearts, to the Gifted Heart webinar. This is a beautiful soul dive into the conversation around our spiritual gifts. And what's really, really lovely is I believe we are all spiritually gifted, and that it is our birthright to be able to wisely navigate our lives by tuning into the sacred information that we all have access to. There are many negative experiences and misnomers around spiritual gifts that I hope we can clarify and illuminate together. My intention for tonight is for you to feel more safe with your spiritual gifts, for you to be able to trust and rely on them more, and for you to be able to have more clarity and confirmation on what your gifts are and what they mean to you. So such a beautiful time on a Friday night to really relax together, really be thinking about being in this present moment. So just take a few moments to really allow your thoughts to drift out of your mind, really allowing yourself to intentionally inhale, bringing all of your focus, devotion, and love here now, being with yourself, being in this moment. And as you inhale and breathe deeply, just allow yourself to see your beautiful heart glowing with light. And just allowing that light to expand wherever is comfortable for you. Gorgeous. So, a little bit of an outline for what we're going to be doing with this gorgeous hour together is this hour is devoted to you. So I have a few bullet points, but I'm absolutely going to intuitively dance in the moment. I really want to hear your questions. That's most important for me to understand what are some of the thoughts and feelings that you have around your spiritual gifts, and how can we come together with open hearts and open minds to support you to more fully trust your beautiful, beautiful gifts. I love seeing everybody introducing themselves. It's so nice. Welcome in from all over the world. You are gathering with women who are highly sensitive, women who are deep feelers, women who know that they are gifted. They may not be clear on exactly what their gifts are, but everyone here are the helpers and healers of the world. So I bow before all of you and thank you for investing your time in yourself tonight to be able to reflect on your gifts. Let's dive straight in and really talk about the purpose of our gifts. It's something that I don't really see a lot of people talking about. I mean, why do we have these gifts? And one of my favorite things to think about is that our physical body is obviously a beautiful, beautiful reflection of our spiritual body. So any capacity that your physical body has, so your heart pumps your blood and allows nutrients and life to flow through your body, then there's going to be a spiritual capacity as well. So obviously the easiest one is our eyes see, and we also have spiritual eyes wherewith we can see as well. We have physical ears and physical touch. So anything that you can do physically is also a representation of something that you can do spiritually. And I think that makes it a lot easier to be able to accept that we think of our gifts being a part of ourselves, okay? But one of the beautiful points that I'd love to put before you for consideration is your spiritual gifts are intrinsically connected to who you are. If we tried to remove it, if we tried to isolate it, if we tried to extricate it, you would not be who you are, and you probably wouldn't be able to live, okay? So this is like more than a vital organ, I guess, is my point. And the reason why I'm so passionate about teaching how our spiritual gifts are a part of who we are is that it makes it a lot easier for us to embrace them and accept them. So I would love to hear for everyone who is tuning in, thank you for being here. And do you believe me? Are your spiritual gifts, from your perspective, something that is intrinsically connected to your identity? Is that something that you agree with, disagree with, have any questions about? I would love you to share. Do you believe that our gifts are an inherent part of who we are? Cool, so we're getting yes from one attendee. Beautiful, someone saying they've known since they were a child. And when we start thinking about how our gifts are intrinsically connected to who we are, obviously if there are any parts of ourselves that we're not connected to, then that's going to create disruption and difficulty in our lives. So Beautiful. Someone saying that they're starting to acknowledge their gifts and that they totally agree. Yes, but we suppress them. Yes, I have denied my gifts. I lost myself. Really beautiful. I love that. For those of you who are new to my work, I'm Lysa Black, a heart healer. My business is called Heart Magic, and I love creating atmospheres where people can share their hearts freely and openly. So if this is your first time and you want to kick back and not participate very much, you're more than welcome to do that. For everyone watching the replay, I'll read some of these comments so that you can enjoy this as though you were here live. And always know that when you're with me, I will not be using your name. And I really want you to feel safe to ask any question that surfaces for you. This is a place where I really want you to feel safe to be exactly who you are. Okay, so someone's sharing that it's a work in progress for them, still aligning with her heart space. Someone's saying that she really wants to acknowledge more her gifts and know how to use them. Someone else is sharing she agrees, but many of us lose it along the way in modern society. Let's talk about that. That was one of the points. So I think one of the things that I've really noticed is that everyone comes fully connected to their gifts, and systematically, according to some of our experiences, we're actually going to need to shut them down. And I really want to comfort everyone who has done that, is doing that, will do that to come. This is a process. I actually spoke a lot about this whole descending to ascend in my second book called Divine Purpose, that the goddess Ishtar really exemplifies this reality that we come into the world completely connected to our truth, and that all of us will systematically deny our truth and give up the truth of who we really are, including our spiritual gifts, which are inherent connection to our identity. Now, we will all descend to a point where we are motivated by pain. And that painful motivation actually inspires us to be able to go on this magical journey, really reclaiming the truth of who we are and connecting more fully with all of our capacities, our spiritual gifts, and our purpose. So one of the ways that I'd like to introduce this idea of shutting out our gifts to you, and you can see how it feels for you, is that some of the people that we encounter may have some adverse experiences in their past to spiritual gifts. It's very, very common for people who are not conscious and aware of their gifts to fear people who are aware and awakened to their gifts. And so all humans will have these two-sided experiences, one where that it's sacred, divine, revered, honored, and accepted, and the other where it's shunned, ostracized, criticized. And I know that we've all probably experienced both sides of those fences, and that's the way it's meant to be. This is a world of duality. But really, let's hold ourselves in compassion for the times when we were criticized and rejected. I knew things as a little girl that I wasn't supposed to know, and freely called out the adults around me because of the knowing that I have. And got a lot of judgment and got a lot of I experienced a lot of rejection, being pushed away and told to shut up and move away because I was calling them out on what I knew, even though I wasn't meant to know these things. So if you have experiences like this, it's kind of like, say you've got a really big house and you've just moved in and there's some boxes that are important but not right now. And so you just put them in a room and you go, I'm just going to close the door on this room and I'll unpack that part later. Okay, now I've met people, I moved 3 times in the last 2 years, by the way. There are some people, obviously, who leave that door shut for a very long time. And when we sometimes open that door back up and you realize that, there's going to be things in there that are going to require a little bit of work and a little bit of effort, it's easy to shut the door again. So many of us live in this internal mansion that actually has many of our sacred doors shut and closed. So if you feel some stirrings, like any of the spiritual gifts that I'm talking about are actually resonating with you, then this is a beautiful time to start opening some doors tonight. This is sacred space for you to deepen into your connection with yourself. So I really love, what you guys are sharing. Someone's sharing, she completely believes that our gifts are a part of our identity, and she's loving it and is slowly developing. Another one shares that she believes that it's still a work in progress, learning to accept. Yeah, really beautiful. So let's hold ourselves in compassion if we have shut the door on any of our beautiful gifts. Just really hold yourself in compassion because everybody's doing it. Doesn't that feel good? Everyone's doing it. We've all done it. And, you know, it's interesting. My daughter is psychic. She's very intuitive but very empathic. So when she watches a movie, all her questions are, why does he feel that way? Why does she feel that way? And so already as a little 3-year-old, she's asking me a lot of questions around emotions, and that's obviously exactly where my strongest gifts are, is in empathy and being able to feel the emotional states in others. So it's really beautiful for me to be able to really help her develop her confidence with this capacity and this part of herself. So for those of you who are just arriving, yes, so nice. It's so nice to have a mother like you for that beautiful child that obviously my parents are both gifted but didn't really accept that within themselves. So it was never a conversation. I'm an Orthodox Christian and I went to church from the time I was a little girl, and spiritual gifts are not very accepted. I'm a Latter-day Saint, a very, very uncommon Latter-day Saint, or a Mormon if you've heard of Mormonism. So it's been a very interesting path for me over the last 2 years coming out as a healer. And for me, I work with people of all spiritual backgrounds, cultural and religious backgrounds. And I love holding people's spiritual beliefs sacred and honoring them. But walking the line as a Mormon healer has been interesting. So I really have a lot of compassion for people who come from different spiritual and cultural backgrounds where some of these spiritual gifts were not accepted, were judged, but sometimes feared. I really, if you have had experiences where your family members actually feared your gifts, then this is quite common. So everyone is gifted and there's a wide variety of gifts. Now what's really exciting is that you could have the exact same ensemble of gifts as somebody else, but because you have completely different soul purposes, you're going to use them in completely magical different ways. How cool is that? I think that's really magical, because if you meet someone, say you're clairvoyant, you meet someone who's clairvoyant, your experience of clairvoyance could be very, very different. And I think this causes a lot of fear and doubt that maybe I'm not clairvoyant, or maybe I'm not gifted, or maybe I'm not as good as her, or, you know, we start going into ego and it's like slippery terrain as soon as we're there. So what I'm going to be talking about soon is all of the different gifts, but I'm going to be sharing with you a wide variety on the spectrum of how they might be showing up. And I'm going to be talking into some of the common challenges with these gifts, because if you're clairvoyant, you probably think you saw something out of the corner of your eye and doubt yourself and freak out sometimes. Okay, that's a common adverse side effect of being clairvoyant. So I want to talk about everything honestly and openly. For those who are just getting used to me, just breathe deep. Everyone else who knows me, you're flowing beautifully. So let's come over and read some. Okay, beautiful. So someone's sharing that their 7-year-old daughter has already questioned her gifts. Someone's sharing, I am empathic and starting to use it more in business. Sometimes overwhelming. Very good. Cool. Another LDS here too. Beautiful. I love meeting people from all different spiritual and cultural backgrounds. Okay, here's my main point of tonight. This is what, if I could really wish for everyone in the world to know about our spiritual beliefs, is that I truly believe it's our birthright to feel safe, loved, and guided in this world. And many of you who know my story from my first book, Heart Healing, I did not feel safe and I did not feel loved in this world. I didn't have a very strong, trusting relationship with either of my parents. And that was my blessing, because where I couldn't feel that sense of trust relying on adults around me, I actually turned within and I turned to prayer to be able to find answers and guidance and help for myself for many years. And that was how many of us actually cultivate our gifts, is through hardship, isolation, being ostracized or abandoned. And I really want to talk into that, because I think my gifts were hard freaking won. Do you know what I mean? Like the experiences that many of us have had to go through in order to cultivate and receive our connection with our gifts, it's actually quite significant. So I really want to honor what you have passed through in order to get to the place where you are today. Let's dive in. I want to talk a little bit about how we need to be calm, connected, and still to access information, but I'll talk into that a little bit more later. Let's talk into some of the most common gifts. I'm going to categorize all these gifts under the term of psychic. For me, psychic means accessing unseen information. accessing information from the unseen world is what I would call psychic gifts. So if you are clairvoyant and you're seeing auras, spirits, ancestors, people who have passed over, if you're seeing energy, if you're seeing vibration, if you're seeing telepathic communication happening, then that is a psychic gift where you're clairvoyant. So is everyone comfortable if I just chuck up an umbrella and say these are all psychic gifts, and then we're going to talk about some of the different ones? Cool. So right along the way, please feel free to type in any questions that are coming up. I'm going to talk about each of these gifts. The clairs is where we'll begin, and talk about some of the big challenges with each of these gifts, because they are magnificent and wonderful, and they come with big challenges as well. Someone sharing, yes, been a rough ride to get here, but now feeling there is light at the end of the tunnel. Beautiful. And I hope that that sentiment really expands while you're here with us together tonight. So let's begin with claircognizance. Whenever we're thinking of claircognizant, we're thinking top of the crown. And what's going to be happening for these people with this gift is that they're just going to like get these huge light bulb moments. So you're just going to get this beautiful idea that just drops in. It's almost as though you didn't even ask. That's a particular variation with this gift, is that there's like this divine download that's kind of happening. So these are divine ideas that you're clearly discerning. Many business owners are actually claircognizant and they don't even know it. They think that they're getting these amazing ideas of their own thinking, but it's very often claircognizance. What's really challenging about having the gift of claircognizance is that you can be trying to freaking sleep at 3 a.m. and you get a freaking download, and you have to like wake up, write it down, or you have to process it in some way. So this can cause some insomnia. Obviously, the more comfortable we get with our gifts and the more we learn how to utilize them, honor them, receive from them, we can actually become more in charge the more connected we become with our gifts. So if you're an awakening claircognizant, you're going to be waking up at all sorts of hours, and particularly around the full moon, you're just not going to be getting much sleep. So if you are claircognizant, it's really important to begin just honoring that these ideas are coming from outside of you and that you are in charge. So you can absolutely just send out some messages that you would really like it if that came to you while you were awake. And for all of the gifts, I really want you all to reflect for yourself when I suggest that we are in charge of our gifts. Okay, that recently in the last 3 months I've opened to my mediumship, and I knew I was capable for the last 2 years, but I had the door shut. I was not comfortable. I sensed things at night and I said, I do not want to play with this party. Leave me alone. And it's okay. You can absolutely say, I don't want to play. And I really feel like this gives us a huge amount of safety and assurance that anytime that we don't want to hear or play, then we can absolutely say no. And I believe that we're in charge of that. So please reflect for yourself. Do you believe that you're in charge of receiving through your gifts or not? Or please share any questions that you have around that. Okay, moving then into clairsentience. Everyone who's drawn to my work is clairsentient. So this is kind of like the most common gift. I could almost assume that every one of you is clairsentient. So when we're saying about the clairs is always just a reflection of clear, so clear feeling. And if you've ever heard of a sentient being, that's the same sense that we're talking about, clairsentient, as in sentinel, sentient being. What's really lovely is that you're going to have a knowing in your tummy. It could feel like it's in your gut. This is not up above your belly button. This is kind of belly button and below. Even womb, sometimes you're going to feel. So clairsentient, when we're talking about that clear feeling and clear knowing, it's just a place where you have a gut instinct that you know something. This can very often be used to discern the intentions in other people. It can very often be to get signs and prompts about immediate decisions that need to be made, or choices that need to be made. And what's really, really lovely is that clairsentience is Well, what's interesting is I think we tend to favor them. Does anyone else favor the gifts that everyone else has? Yeah, it's so common. And if you're doing that, like one of the ones that I look to is I'm not very clairaudient, which is the one we're going to be talking about next. I can't hear, but I know I don't want to hear. So it's so ironic, because if I was willing to be brave enough to allow myself to hear, I know I could hear. But at this point, I don't want to. But I really admire people. I'll be with a client in a session, they'll go, oh, wait, I'm just getting something. And they listen, and I go, I have no idea what that's like. But I could be fibbing there. Do you know what I mean? It's a little bit of a whisper. So some people who are clairaudient will actually want to feel. If you hear, you want to feel. If you feel, you want to see. Or if you see, you want to know. Or, just really understand that this is really, really common. And this is human nature. Everyone that's got straight hair wants curly hair, and the blondes want to be brunette. The brunettes want to be blonde. So let's move up and talk about being clairaudient, because clairaudients have clear hearing. So with their spiritual ears, they're capable of hearing beautiful messages from God, angels, spirit, anyone in their angelic realm, ascended masters, fairies, plants, nature spirits. I've heard of it all, and I believe that we can all access that beautiful divine information through this beautiful gift of clear hearing. So someone's sharing, sometimes they feel that energy comes into my room uninvited and have to ask them to leave, but then freaked out. Let's talk about this right now, because it's really interesting that you're in charge, so you're asking them to leave. But this was very, very common for me just before I was willing to open the door on mediumship, that there's this divine tap and you'll start getting visitors. When it's time for you to be able to start opening up to mediumship or clairaudience or claircognizance, whatever it is, you're going to start getting these taps, and it's very, very common to be frightened. And so later on in this conversation, we're going to be talking about our fears, our wounds, our past experiences, and everybody knows that I am deeply committed to supporting other people to know how they can heal their own hearts. Spiritual healing is akin to emotional healing, and it's so important that we feel safe, that as we accept we have the capacity to discern spirits or energy, we have the capacity to feel safe doing that as well, okay, by healing our own hearts and telling ourselves the truth. So thank you, that person who brought that out. You're speaking on behalf of probably everyone here. I'm sure everyone's had a little freak out, or a few, or a lot. Okay, how do you develop other gifts? That I might leave that one for later on. I'll write it down. Beautiful. And remember, one of the key ways that we develop other gifts is by acknowledging that we want another gift, and that often when we want another gift, it is probably already ours. Okay, so next question. I'm clairaudient, but I don't want to see, and I really honor you. Thank you so much for your honesty. It's so true that we all have our aversions to one or the other. So if you're hearing that and you're going, yes, but I see and I don't want to hear it, let's just all have a divine chuckle together, because it's quite funny. Next, let's move into clairvoyance. So one of the downsides of being clairaudient is, once again, inappropriate whisperings. So then, like, you can be all alone and you can hear something, can turn around to try and see who's there, and nobody's there. So normally I find people who are clairaudient can get quite annoyed when they're alone doing the gardening, or doing some accounts or something like that, and then they're getting messages coming through. So that can be a little bit annoying. Once again, all hours. Clairaudient can sometimes be in a crowd and hear a message and kind of ask. It's like you can hear so clear that someone's speaking that you ask the people around you who said that. Okay, and this can often be apprehensive because you don't know where it's coming from, but a lot of people fear that this makes us look like freaks socially, that if you're going, who said I shouldn't be doing this, or who said to get the pink one, do you know what I mean? That this can be a little bit apprehensive. So that's normal and natural. Clairvoyant, obviously, I was talking about before, so they have the capacity to see everything in the unseen world. Family members who have passed on, spirits leaving bodies, all sorts of magical beings in the unseen world, seeing auras and energy, being able to, read other people's systems and see into their bodies. This is everything that a clairvoyant can do. And once again, we're just going to think about clear sight and somebody having the capacity to actually see as though we can without human eyes, with our bodily eyes, that anything that's visible in the unseen world will be visible for a clairvoyant. So then, sometimes clairvoyants just want to live a normal freaking life and they don't want to see what's in the bloody unseen realm, and they want to pretend to be like everybody else and just do the 9 to 5 and have a little family and so on and so forth. So clairvoyants can often feel quite socially rejected because they simply do not have the same perspective that other people have. That's actually really, really common for people who are clairaudient to actually think that they're crazy. Any psychic gift will have you feeling like you're crazy. And many people say that when they're awakening, they wonder whether they should be happy or whether they should, get one of those cuddle suits. And I guess, when I had a massive breakdown around 10 years ago, I thought I should have a cuddle suit. But then I realized, the more I paid attention, I realized kind of we all need cuddle suits. And that made me feel a lot more compassionate to myself, that anxiety and fear actually was my awakening to be able to calm and actually feel this enormous sense of love that I had never been acquainted with before. And I realized that love was everywhere, and I had been seeking it for so many years and had repeated breakups, for those who know my story. So someone sharing, I started to feel overwhelmed in crowds, even though I love being social. So this is very indicative of an empath. For the person who has shared that when we're feeling other people's emotions as an empath, that we can feel too many emotions and they start to we lose our capacity to distinguish some of the different emotions, which can be very overwhelming. Someone sharing, I have seen auras since I was little. I used to draw pictures of people with colours around them, and that's what my mum told me. It went away for a while and came back really strong at 11, but it's been ages since I've really seen them again. So once again, really just honouring you for the beautiful life experiences that you've been through, and that we'll all go through a process of shutting the door on all of our gifts. Not all of them, we don't have to, but it's really, really common in that we can open those doors back up. I have all of the claims, but got overwhelmed with energy because I can feel their breath on my face. These are the sorts of things that sometimes we just want to be naked in the shower alone. And if you can see that other spirits are there, you can just say, can I be naked alone, please? And, I've heard, I guess there are some people who really admire spiritual gifts, but those people who really are spiritually aware of their gifts actually know the social inconvenience that many of this plays. So really recognize and honor that everything is a two-sided coin, and what we're talking about here is the light side and the shadow side of all of these gifts. Now, as we move into being an empath, obviously there's a light side, that we have the capacity to feel other people's feelings in our body as though they're our own emotions. And for me, this is my strongest gift and my most developed gift. And what happened for me is that going to a shopping centre, I became completely overwhelmed. I could hear what everyone was thinking and I could feel what they were feeling, and it wasn't pretty. And the interesting thing is that the more we heal our own hearts, the more connection and clarity we have with our spiritual gifts. So what I've really noticed is that now I can be with someone and I can perceive their inner world. And what that allows me to do is it allows me to witness. So while I can't go back in time and actually be present to some of the experiences they've been through, I can actually feel what that was like as though I were present. And that gives me an enormous capacity to offer compassion to that person and really understand them. So the light side of being an empath is that we can soul witness. And everybody knows that I'm a big promoter of the idea that if you're an empath, you're actually a healer, because a healer is a truth speaker and someone who brings truth forward. So my beautiful gifts allow me to perceive the truth in other people and call that forward, invite people home to the truth of who they are. Downside is overwhelm, confusion. Is this my feeling or is this someone else? social phobias. Once again, thinking you're crazy, because a lot of the world wants to think that emotion isn't even real. Has everyone noticed that? Like emotion, like energy isn't real, but emotion isn't real, okay? And so we're completely strange to some people. Let me go back and read some of these beautiful... Yeah, someone's sharing being overwhelmed in crowds. Someone else is just chiming in saying that they felt the same way. I used to have massive social anxiety because it was just too much. And I actually went kind of within for like a year and was journaling every night and becoming more comfortable with my inner world. Someone else is sharing, yes, I've really learned to put key boundaries in with spirit. It's essential. Yep. So essential. I used to run to the car and cry as a teenager when mum would force me to go to the mall. Oh, sweetheart. I used to say I was too sensitive and always wanted to be different till I learned that being an empath is a gift. Beautiful. Someone is sharing, I've learned to ask if the pain is mine or if it is for someone else. Absolutely. There's people here on this call that actually can feel the physical health ailments in other people, and that's not nice, to feel what it feels like to have breast cancer or stomach ulcers or physically within your own body. So these gifts can be very, very confusing, and that's why I guess I love talking about it openly and freely, because what I want for you guys tonight is to be able to see that everyone here is gifted, and that as you're reading these comments, I hope that it brings you a degree of comfort knowing that you're not alone. And that as much as we glorify spiritual gifts, they actually require effort and maintenance and management. Okay, so yeah, beautiful. I have trouble speaking my truth. Someone's sharing. Lots of love. Look at you. You all loving each other. You're my tribe. I adore you all. I used to wonder what was wrong with me, and I did not cope in crowds or loud noises. Now I understand. Aw, I adore you all. I'm only going to cover 2 more gifts, and the next 2 are mediumship and channeling. So for mediumship, obviously for me, I sensed, I was like, I know you guys are there, but I am not dealing with that. Last year, I could really feel it, and I was doing 8 client sessions every week, and I'm like, I am full to the brim with humans right now. You're going to have to wait till I pass over. I am not interested in playing any games with you guys right now. And I want to be really clear about that it just didn't feel safe and right and ready for me. Now, my purpose that I've accepted is to help people heal their own heart so that they can come home to the truth of who they are and align with their purpose and prosper in peace. And what I really noticed was that I opened to my mediumship because some of the client sessions that I had actually required some generational healing, and actually some ancestors and key family members were actually contributing to the intention that my client and I had set to bring healing to their heart. And so that's how it kind of got on the radar for me. I was like, okay, well, if you're going to help me heal human hearts, I'll play. And so I really want you to hear me say that, because I'm here to help people learn how to heal their own hearts, that I actually use all of my spiritual gifts in order to do that. Now, your spiritual gifts are going to be completely aligned according to your spiritual purpose and the reason why your soul is here on the planet. How do you feel about that? Flicking back through. Yeah, so nice. You're not alone, darling one. It's so nice to find our soul family. Oh, beautiful. I think I have that. I get goosebumps all over and I can feel them around me, but I'm like, no, I can't do this right now. And I totally relate the person who's sharing this, and you have full permission to keep the door shut, babe. It's all good. It's fine. And, I go, it's our prerogative. We're free to choose. And just remember that person who said before, we're going to get divine knocks, okay? But they'll go away when we don't answer the door. Just, shh, we're not here right now. And they'll come back again, and they'll give you another opportunity. But it's safe. You can do that. Yeah, someone's saying that they've experienced that in their sessions. Beautiful. Christy, same with me. Even nowadays, I feel like a failure, as my daughter loves shopping, but I'm done, overwhelmed, exhausted after 5 minutes, and she wants to keep going. I love hearing about the real life experiences. So mediumship obviously allows you to be able to have conversations with people that are on the other side. And in the unseen world, what's really interesting for me is that I don't find that we ever have isolated gifts, okay? So if you have the gift of mediumship, you very often are going to have the gift of clairvoyance as well, and that looks like seeing these spirits in the other world. Whereas if you're not connected to, aware of, or having developed your clairvoyance and you're clairaudient, then you're going to be able to hear these spirits in the unseen world. Okay? So see how they start linking up in pairs and duos and combos. So for me, because being an empath and clairsentient are two of my strongest gifts, when I'm connecting with spirits who have passed on, I'm actually feeling them with my heart, and I'm actually feeling their words in my tummy. Okay, so what I find is that if you have at least two, it's easier to corroborate the information. Okay, and this is actually why 4 years ago I started to develop my clairvoyance, because I wanted to kind of, the more nails that you can peg in something, the more secure you can make it. So once I sensed something and I felt something, I wanted to see a visual representation to just peg it down with another nail so that it was more secure. At this point, I'd love to tell you a story of how I really developed my gifts. Coming back in, that person was, how do you develop your gifts? And my simple answer would be to play with them. And everyone here mostly knows the story that when I was pregnant with our first child, Melchizedek, that I knew as soon as I was pregnant, and I really felt more light within me. And it was such an awakening for me, being pregnant with him. And we unfortunately miscarried him at 8 or 9 weeks, and I felt as soon as he wasn't there. But he really did bring a gift into my life that I really sensed that my gifts really were, the doors kind of were flung open, and so I had to manage that, and it was a really good experience. So I started playing. If anyone has heard of Fiverr.com, I'm going to type it in case anyone wants to experiment. Fiverr.com is kind of like a freelance website. You can get anything for $5 US, and I had heard of Fiverr, and I thought, how cool to play on Fiverr. So I set myself up as an intuitive who was offering intuitive affirmations, and I think I did 59 orders in that year. So it gives you access to people from all over the world, and all they would do is tell me their name, and I would provide an intuitive affirmation. So the reason why I want to tell you about this story is that when I first started doing this, what I would do is I would need to pray and ask and intend and breathe and be still and calm for about 15 minutes to half an hour to get one intuitive affirmation. And so what I started to do was to leave myself open to bookings all the time, so that I had to fit in my service to fulfill these requests in my life with a baby and a young child. I think Bo was 1 and I think Orion was 4 at the time. And around my other client sessions, I wasn't using my spiritual gifts. I told myself at that time in my career, I was doing eating disorder recovery as a life coach. But I knew I was gifted, and so I thought I have to play with this. I have to develop it. And so what I really noticed is that the more I did it, one night I remember I was cooking spaghetti bolognese, and I was getting the information for one lady while I was stirring the mince, and I was like, this is multitasking. And I felt really good about it. And what's really, really lovely is that over that year, the more orders I did, I stopped needing to ask, because I always want to be able to receive sacred information to help support and bless other people. And then I actually started to live my life in a way that I was connected more often than not. So I didn't need to breathe and be calm, because I was already living in a state of calmness. And to this day, many of you know, I don't read any glossy magazines, no news, no radio, because it disrupts me too much. And at this point, I want to dance over and just confirm that whenever we are in fear, you'll have a very, very hard time receiving any clarity. Even if you're receiving information through your gifts, you'll probably get distorted messages, and they could be quite confusing. The best way to really receive clear communication through our spiritual gifts is to be calm and to be quiet and to be still. And so nighttime is a really good time where there's more yin energy, and we've got more of a place where we can be. and we can be receptive. They call it readings because you're actually reading information. You have to pay attention to it. And so that was a glorious experimentation, and then it filled the quota, and I definitely got some negative feedback. I was definitely off a few times, and that was part of the learning process. I got paid $5 every bang that I did, but I was there to develop the gift. So playing with it, learning how to access it. Sometimes if I got information and I wasn't sure, many people go, is it okay to ask? And I'm like, absolutely. We can just go, I'm thinking that this is what you're telling me. Is that right? And they will absolutely always give you a confirmation. And for me, that's always a feeling of peace. Always get a feeling of warmth and love anytime that I'm getting accurate information. So I don't doubt that anymore, which is really lovely. Okay, let me flick back through some of these great questions. Oh, true. Someone found me from Fiverr and you're here tonight. Who is that? That is so cool. I can't believe it. That is wonderful. I have had a few people follow me on Facebook and go, hey, you're that one from Fiverr. Yeah, way cool. Someone sharing, I'm a twin and recently felt my sister's pain as she was going through shingles. We've had these connections since birth. Childbirth for us was very interesting. Yeah, your womb, buddy. Yeah, that's beautiful, sweetheart. Thank you for sharing. Okay, I'm not sure if it's clairsentient or clairaudient, as I feel into the energy and then the info comes through as messages in words, but in my head, mind, not like sound as I'm listening to outside of me. Does this make sense? Yeah, absolutely. So this, I would say, is clairsentience because you're feeling it. So this person, you're actually feeling into the feelings and then you're using your mind to interpret those feelings with words. And words are actually vehicles for feelings. So if you're clairaudient, you're actually going to hear the words. So they're going to say whatever they're going to say, but they're going to tell you audibly through your ears. Okay, so when you are feeling into your tummy and then putting those feelings into words, that's clairsentience. Great question. I have a feeling that I'm a fraud, which puts me off practicing and definitely asking for money. Ooh, what a juicy topic, just so juicy. And that's, I mean, $5, it was great, do you know what I mean? And they could actually ask for a refund if they weren't happy. But I think what's interesting is that obviously the role of our ego and our past hurts is what's really present here, that our ego always has us believing that being who we are is fraudulent. And I just think that's so funny that it goes, owning your spiritual gifts makes you a fraud, when the reality is that that's actually our truth and our ego fears that. So it's really, really nice to be able to look at some of the fears that you have. We did a Developing Gifts webinar, and if you haven't listened to that, that's on my YouTube channel, and we talked extensively about the fears that we all have, and we talked openly with some of the people that were there, so I'd love to reference that for you. That will be really, really helpful, sweetheart. Okay, someone's sharing, the doors opened for me last year to use my gifts, and I started to listen. Still doubted for months what I was hearing and feeling until the information I was getting was so accurate. I'm about to start working as a healer. I would love any advice. Oh, wow. I guess I've talked about playing with our gifts is really important. So with our friends and our family and people that we trust is kind of, this is what I'm sensing, and just relaying it. The reason why I went on Fiverr is that it was so, so important for me to be able to actually have real people that really wanted to know, give me permission, okay, which is a very important part of using our spiritual gifts. So I actually won't do any readings. I won't read anybody unless I have their permission, and I do free readings on my Instagram, on my YouTube, on my business page, in my secret group, Heart Leaders, and very important to ask for permission. But very, very important to actually get feedback, that if you think you can figure this out on your own, you absolutely can't, because you don't know the information that you're relaying. Sometimes it won't actually hold any significance for you. The significance will actually be for the other person. And so it's not until we're brave enough to actually speak up and say, this is what I'm hearing and this is what I'm sensing. My husband brought us a new car a few months ago, and I said, I was going to ask him, what color is it? And then I went, no, wait on. You know? And you go, wait on, the color of the car is? And I went, white. And he goes, yes. And I'm like, I knew it was going to be white. And, you know, like it's playing. Can you, I guess, don't hear the word play, feel the word play. That there's so many opportunities for you to be able to go, who's calling me? Do you know what I mean? And just take a few moments to feel it. That if you don't want to openly discuss it with anyone else, these are great ways to be able to play with your gifts, to have them confirmed. Yeah, there's so much I want to share with this person. So I'll keep going for now. But I guess really honoring the truth that you know that you are a healer is the best thing that you can do. And really be open and disclose that and let people know that, as I always say, I go, never believe me. I go, I'm just going to share the information that I sense and that I'm receiving, and you tell me what that means to you, and you tell me if it's accurate. Okay? And it's very, very difficult when we're relaying information because people do not always want to receive the information. Okay, so sometimes we can actually relay sacred, accurate messages that the person in front of us actually says, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, and this is where many of us who are gifted actually doubt ourselves because we're only corroborating with a few people. Okay, and we're maybe not seeking permission, and we're not allowing ourselves to approach it from a professional manner where we're, do you know what I mean? Doing all of the boundary setting and clarifying that I actually won't offer information to anyone unless they ask for it because it won't be good for their soul. Okay, it's not going to be good for them. So, yeah, it's good to know. Some people don't want to know some stuff. Hey, who knows what I'm talking about? Wave your hands and it just makes me giggle. And this is why I only offer something. And I always say, don't listen to me. There are no pure channels in this world. Nobody is relaying crystal clear, accurate information. Nobody is. It's channeled through their life experience, it's through their perception, through their gifts, through their humanity. Okay, so you can always develop it, and you can always improve your connection, but we're never infallible. Okay, beautiful ones. Okay, beautiful. Okay, yeah, someone's just asking, how do you get rid of fear, and you don't. I don't know if that's a good answer, but it's a truthful answer that, leading up to tonight, I sat here and I was ready 20 minutes before, and I was like, I am so nervous. And I'm like, that's such a good sign that this is really important to me and I don't know what's going to happen. That every time I serve a client, particularly in my gifts and purpose sessions, I did a dozen last year, and I actually took them off from my website because I became too apprehensive that I wasn't relaying it accurately. And I sought out an amazing mentor, Jean Hainer, and have really had it confirmed through Chinese I Ching. I don't know if you know about that, but anyway, that my gifts are very, I'm using them in a wonderful, perfect way. And I've had 3 gifts and purpose sessions so far, and they've been absolutely electric and amazing. I know a few of you have had them here. So you never get rid of the fear. What I teach in my first book, Heart Healing, is I talk about using fear as a shadow compass. So if fear tells you don't do this, I actually use that to confirm that I need to. Go, 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 Lysa. What, don't do that? I'm going to do it. Thank you. Okay, cool. Yes. Okay, cool. So a few people corroborating something that was said before about I have the same feeling that here is a voice in my head. It comes out of my mouth, but can also see it in word form sometimes and audibly sometimes too. Okay, beautiful. Okay, yes. Okay, I've been doing that my whole life. Even now as a healer, I still have to be careful what I say. Yep, still learning this the hard way. It is. And this is where you have to really have a strong sense of trust with your gifts. And you have to be willing to be brave and be bold. So the last gift that I wanted to talk about was the gift of channeling. And once again, there is no gift that is isolated. Gifts are always going to kind of merge and connect with other gifts. So people who channel will sometimes be, very strongly clairaudient, and they're going to actually hear beings from the unseen world passing on messages and sharing. Obviously, it's very famous from Whoopi Goldberg to actually have that idea of being able to hear from people who have passed over and actually channel messages. So obviously, when you're a channel, very, very likely that you will think you're crazy initially. And, you know, I think with Facebook, we are really safe, because if we had to rely on the people in our geographical area today, there may not be anyone who can actually support you and resonate with you. But now that we are this global community, in my secret group, you know, there's people from all over the world who are very, very gifted, who are deeply feeling, who are just like me, the helpers and healers of the world. And I love gathering with them and connecting with them, because they're my people and they get me, and I love them and we understand each other. So thank you so much for everyone's wonderful questions. Do you help people develop their gifts? Yes, always with... This is something I never anticipated. I allowed myself to come out as a heart healer 2 years ago, and I never knew that as we heal our hearts, we awaken, connect, and develop our spiritual gifts. So all of my clients currently are developing their spiritual gifts, and it's kind of like this beautiful tandem process that the more we heal our hearts, the more conscious and present and aware we can be to the guidance that we're receiving. Then as we encounter fear and some wounding around our capacities, we need to heal those, which opens up our gifts more and more. So it's very exciting work right now, and I feel so fulfilled and excited for it. I will post the link to the gift development webinar